Don't throw away that old piece of furniture just yet. I'll show you how to restore it using some simple techniques that'll breathe new life into your old furniture and save you money. So let's get into it. This is a buffet table, but we're going to turn it into a modern farmhouse entryway table. We're going to paint it white, add a few things, and then we're going to stain the top a nice dark stain so that we can make this look like a modern farmhouse entryway table. Step 1, getting ready to sand. First step is to remove as much stuff as possible to make it easy to sand down all the pieces, removing the drawers, legs, doors, top of the buffet table, along with any other hardware like hinges and pulls, getting it down to just a hard shell. Here's a pro tip. It's always a good idea to keep your hardware like screws, hinges, and door pulls in a bag and labeled so that you know what it is. Step 2. Clean each piece with the degreaser. I'm using Lysol Disinfect Wipe, removing anything that might be on the pieces like dirt, grime, or grease. Step 3. Sanding. At first, I wasn't sure if I was going to stain it, so I did end up sanding a lot more than you need to. Sanded enough to get the clear coat off. Clear coat is the shiny or sheen look that it has. If you don't do this and you paint it, primer and the paint will not have a good surface to stick to, and it will at some point come off. Sanding the pieces using an orbital sander with 120 grit sandpaper. You could do this by hand, but it would take a lot more work and time, so it's not recommended. Now for the top part, we're going to be staining that. It'll have to be sanded down to the raw wood, getting off any color or stain that might have been on there. Step 4, staining. Before you stain, use a cloth and wipe down all the pieces to make sure there's no dust or dirt and you're ready to stain. The stain I chose to use on this is a dark walnut oil-based stain made by Varathane. Leave a link in the description below on where you can buy this. You're going to need some stain in the color that you chose. Now for the top, we're going to be staining that. Apply the stain with the grain using a brush. One coat should be enough, but you can add more coats to build layers until you get the look you're looking for. Then wipe it down using a rag. Now set this aside and start the other pieces. Step 5, priming and painting. Time to start priming our pieces. For this, I'm using a Kilts 2 all-purpose primer. Pour your primer into the paint tray using a small paint roller and a paintbrush. You start it with the biggest pieces first, rolling on the primer, and then use the paintbrush along the edges that's exposed. Now you're ready to prime your doors. Use a paintbrush and prime all the inside edges first, dragging your primer out of the middle of the corner so you don't get any blotches. Then prime the rest of it using your paintbrush. After that, get your small paint roller to remove the brush marks and to do the outside edges of the doors, leaving you with a nice smooth finish. Once it dries, do the same thing to the other side. Now you're ready to prime the drawers. Repeat the process you did for the doors. Using your paintbrush first, then follow up with a small paint roller to give you a smooth finish. Once that's done, prime the main body. Once all your pieces are primed, paint them, except for the main body. We'll paint that later. The paint I use for this is the Behr Premium Plus Interior Satin Enamel Paint, repeating the same process you did for the primer. Once you have all the pieces painted, it's time to move on to the next step. Step 6, giving it that farmhouse look. To give this entryway table a modern farmhouse look, I decided to add some cross bracing. This is a really simple thing to do. Cut each piece to the right angle, leaving you with one long piece and two short pieces, making an X on both sides, then use construction adhesive to put them on. So for this, I used liquid nails. Then I used dry deck spackling to fill in the gaps. Once it dried, I gave it a light sand. After you have both sides done, go ahead and paint it. Step 7, clear coat. The clear coat we'll be using is the polyurethane satin finish sealer in a water base made by Varathane. This will give it a nice shine without it being too shiny like a gloss. Use a paper towel. Make sure there's no dust or anything on the wood that you're fixing to apply the poly to. Once you start to apply the poly, it'll lock in anything that was left on it, making it impossible to remove without sanding and starting over. Now when you're ready to start, make sure you use rubber gloves. You don't want to get this on you. Use a paper towel to spread this on with. Fold your paper towel into a small square. Use a small throwaway cup or container and pour a small amount of poly into it. Take your paper towel and get it soaked with poly. Then you want to wipe it on going the same way as the grain of wood, starting in one section and going all the way across, then down and back again. Make sure you cover the entire area. Don't forget to do your sides as well. Once it's dry, give it a light sand, and you're going to want to go back over it with another coat. Step 8. Adding hardware. With the top of the entryway table done, we can put everything back together using the hardware we took off. For the hinges and door pulls, you can buy new or you can spray paint them to look new. I decided to spray paint them a flat black and put them back on, completing the look. Now you've learned how to fix, restain, and update your old furniture, giving it an amazing new look using these simple DIY techniques. If you found this video to be helpful, hit the like button. Make sure to check out our other DIY home improvement videos and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see you next time. Booyah!